right, guys, we're here with Atomic Tomb in Toronto. Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Axel too. I preach.
You preach. Preach.
I'm Corrado Bartolo. I'm the bass player and do a bunch of backup vocals.
Gary, drums.
Tommy Gunn, guitar.
Ron, guitar, vocals.
All right, so we're here at their rehearsal spot. We've been here before, so this area all looks familiar to us. And I wanted to start with the first question of the night is, how do you guys explain the longevity of the band? You guys have been together for a long time, and we see in today's modern day bands break up easily. Guys go all over the place, but you guys have been together for a while. The band has been around for a while. How do you explain that?
We basically, in between us, have known each other. Me and Tom have known each other since I guess we were 19.
Yeah, teenagers,
And,
back in the late 70s,
played off
early
and on
punk
and
days. All kinds
in
of
different
bands and
bands
stuff,
through the years, and all end up coming back together. And
Yeah, it's the friend factor.
Ronnie, I've known everybody. I've
The
known
musicianship
for
is
years,
good
and
too, you know, that helps.
We keep
but-
coming back together.
Yeah, just because it's the music, it sounds right. We fit well together. He's a good voice for the type of riffs that Tom writes, and it gels well.
And we're all friends.
Gels well,
I mean,
and we're all friends. Yeah, that makes it number one. You know?
And we're still alive.
Still alive, that helps.
I'm the newbie. I've been with the band 3 years.
But you
And
can
it's
tell,
kind of funny how it all came about, but I'm really glad it went down the way it did. At the time, there was another lead guitar player, and Ron was the original guitar player years ago. And it just so happened that he took his leave on his own, and Axel approached Ron, and Ron was available. And he's a busy guy, actually, and it worked out great.
No, I could tell, like, when you guys were playing, we were recording, there's some live videos on Facebook. You could tell that, there's some chemistry there. Like, you guys, it's like a family.
Yeah,
Everybody kind of vibes off of each other, and,
absolutely.
and there's not, like one guy trying to overdo the other. Everybody's just,
Yeah, no, I enjoy playing on stage with these guys. We got a good camaraderie on stage. We gel well on stage as well. And the fact that we do get along, we really don't argue. There's nothing that we really bicker about. We kind of like somebody will come up
We're
with
all
an
old
idea.
punks.
I was going to say, that comes with maturity, right?
Yeah,
I guess
it does.
I guess
It does. The only thing that we really, I mean, we take our music seriously and our message seriously.
Yes, we do. Yes.
So,
we're all on the same
these
page.
are the struggles. That, but we're all the vision
Is
It's
there.
the same.
is the same. Definitely.
Absolutely.
And the world's getting crazier by the day.
Yeah,
There's
I mean,
lots
the
of stuff
material
to
right
talk
there.
about.
Material writes itself.
I was going to say, there's no lack of material these days, because with the world that we live in,
Yes,
I'm sure there's tons of material. So
Oh, yeah.
how does the music, the creative process behind the music happen? Like, who writes the lyrics? How does it work?
Tommy is just
The
a
main
riff
guy. He
machine.
is.
Yeah.
He just
He
comes
lays
up with
down
riffs.
the foundations for the songs.
We sit down, we
Break it
hash
apart,
everything
line
out,
up, yeah.
we arrange, we figure it out. Lyrics happen between Tommy and Axel, and maybe some input from us if necessary, but they usually got it down.
Everyone
And
puts
then
in their-
everyone puts in their 2 cents, and we just make it happen.
Yeah, like I might come to practice with a riff or an idea in my head, and I'll throw it out there.
Right.
And the best thing to do
Comes
is
to
just
practice
give it
with
to
10
somebody that's
minutes.
got a lot of talent, and let them, hear it through their ears, and
Break it
they
apart,
might do
smash
something
it
you
up,
never
yeah.
even considered it, when you were playing it in your brain. And that's the best way, because you get the best performance and input out of people that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's one from somebody who doesn't write music. I always thought, I was not thought, but I always wonder how the music creation process worked. And most of the people that I've talked to, they always say the same thing that you guys just said. I get an idea for a riff, and then from that it kind of escalates, and then after we put the music together, we start working on the lyrics. Has the process ever worked the other way around, where one day you write like a poem or you write something cool, and then you try to fit the music into that lyric?
It does happen.
Yeah,
I mean, it can work that way.
Yeah.
There's many different scenarios as to how it can work.
Well, actually, yeah.
But-
One example is we have this new song. It's called Letter X, which actually came from lyrics before the music.
Which exactly.
Yeah. So
And it has there's a meaning to it.
There is a meaning
you know,
to it, yeah.
and,
It came from an experience.
But it just
it
kind
came
of
from
happened.
lyrics, yeah.
We were talking about it. The lyrics started happening.
And then it just
and
then the
then
music started.
He
after
started
that,
playing
yeah.
this riff, and then I started
All of a
playing this
sudden, yeah.
thing, and then there it
Yeah.
was.
So that's a song.
All of a
that
sudden,
had
it was a
lyrics
song
first.
that
It wrote itself.
never
It
wrote
did write
itself.
itself.
It really
wrote
did.
itself. And
That's
that
the
started
magic
right
of
from
it.
lyrics from a letter. So hence letter X. Yeah.
And I think an important thing too is to keep an open mind,
yes.
because when you write a song, the end result of that song, from beginning to end, after recording in the studio, it could be completely different.
Yeah, I'd like
yeah.
to just say here that you bring up Ian.
Yeah,
next
Ian.
door.
Our
you know,
producer.
We bring in, he's across the hallway from us, and
He's
we
a
bring in
producer,
our song finished in our eyes, but then he comes and he changes it.
As a
more-
producer,
It shortens it, or,
You know,
lengthens it, but
yeah.
we put this part
Really adds
here,
a
or
lot
like and
color to it.
and he really does. He does his job as a
Yeah.
producer.
That's
He-
Ian
He's
Murray.
like Toronto's Rick Rubin.
He's
Yeah.
brilliant. He
Yeah.
really is.
So the song never really is finished until we actually
Until
put
it's
it
finished.
down, until it's finished. Yeah.
until it's
Yeah,
printed,
so
yeah,
until it's
until you
printed, yeah.
you put it down.
Yeah.
And riff wise, I think I'm still trying to find that perfect marriage between Black Sabbath and the Sex Pistols, and
That's a
I
tough
haven't found
marriage.
it yet,
It
so
is.
I'm gonna keep going.
Keep trying, yeah.
Keep trying.
Getting
That's
close.
a tough marriage
It is.
to make it work. you
Want to
know?
hear a riff? Tommy, go and pick a
We all had that though. We were in punk bands basically in the beginning. Like he was in Arson.
Yeah.
And I had a band called the Sickies. Tom's played in many different punk bands.
Yeah, lots of different punk bands over the years.
Wild Tones.
Splits, yeah.
tones, yeah.
Have you guys ever, like for you, for example, thinking always guitar riffs, have you ever woke up in the middle of the night with a super cool riff in your head and
Absolutely.
you just had to get up and either record it on the phone or something because you don't want to
Yeah,
forget
oh,
it?
yeah.
And we've
Yeah.
all done
Yeah.
that. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I live, I
To
do
this
that.
day,
con-
yeah,
to
I
this
do it
day,
constantly.
yeah.
I wake
As
up,
a matter
I'm
of fact,
constantly got
there's
melodies
a
in the head.
guitar plugged in and on. My amplifier is on in my apartment 24 hours a day.
I've seen
You get
it.
phone calls
Yeah.
at 3 in the morning. Check this out.
There's
I have guitars
piles of paper
in every
everywhere.
room of my
Oh,
house
yeah.
as well, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Always
Constantly,
creative.
always
the
creative,
The creative
yes,
process
yeah.
is always flowing.
Like
Yeah,
we can't
yeah.
sit on a couch in my house because there's like 3 guitars
Ah.
and a cat
Make room for that.
taking up
Yeah.
whatever space
But
there
yeah,
is
yeah,
available.
constantly. Yeah, as soon as I wake up, my creative juices start to flow. I'm singing melodies and riffs, just shit like stuff
And
like
you
that.
guys said you had a lot of experience with the punk scene. So, what bands really influenced you guys to pick up an instrument and start playing, even before the band came together? Personally, like, what was that band or that song, or that concert, that trigger? Do you guys remember that? Like, what was that
Alice
moment?
Cooper, Lou Reed. This is before punk.
Yeah, for me,
But then the Sex Pistols, I had a friend myself from
Stooges.
Scotland that was bringing records from Britain over there to here.
yeah,
So
the real deal.
started a band called the Sickies back in about 1977.
I listen to
Yeah.
classic, like so-called classic rock too, like, the bands from yesteryear, like Deep Purple and Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah, we all have
Stuff like
different stories.
that.
My cousin used to play bass in wedding bands, and every time we went to weddings and he was there, I would sit in front of him because he was my cousin and he was on stage, and I got a feel for the music of live music then. That's when my interest in music started. I picked up the guitar at 15 because of bands like Black Sabbath. At the time, it
Oh,
was
and
like,
Sabbath,
yeah,
definitely.
at the time, it was the Motley Crue of the day with their first cut, Priest. It was, for me, it was that, and that's what got me started. But
Yeah, hearing the Nevermind the Bollocks, that album literally changed my life. Like, I was into playing hard rock before that, but when I heard that, like my, it was like a movement, a need.
A light switch.
Oh yeah. Had to seek it out. Literally hitchhiking to Toronto from Kitchener, where I grew up. Where Oxford and I are both from that area, and just to see, the latest bands, because a lot of the first British bands, the punk bands that came over here stopped in Toronto before they went to the States. A lot of times.
So
they
was
made
Toronto at that time like a hot spot
It
for,
was.
for
And it
punk,
was.
metal,
and
and rock?
it's overlooked a lot,
No,
you know.
for punk,
and when
yeah.
they talk
Yeah,
about
it was
New
a-
York and
it was
London,
over.
but
Because New York, I was
Toronto,
just gonna say that New York, London. When people talk about punk, like the Ramones, Sex Pistols, New York Dolls,
yeah.
everybody talks New York and London. Like Toronto,
And
LA
then-
as
and
well.
then when I
Right.
hear them talk about Los Angeles and punk rock, man, like Toronto had like a scene.
Yeah, it was a great
years
scene. It was a
before.
great scene.
Oh,
in
yeah.
those
Queen
days.
Street,
Great.
Queen West
Oh,
was,
yeah.
was
Oh,
an
yeah.
awesome,
Yeah.
you know, scene.
Turning
Back
Point
then.
up on the Bloor
So, yeah,
and Club David's,
Yeah,
all
the
these clubs
first show I ever did
downtown.
was a Turning Point.
Yeah,
Oh, right,
yeah.
yeah. That old
Turning
couple,
Point
they
too.
were like, yeah.
So my question is, what has happened to Toronto? Because I feel like it's not
Yeah.
through time is not
I
the
don't,
same.
sometimes
So-
I think it's because I'm older or something, but I
No,
don't think it's
you.
that. I don't think
Yeah,
No, I don't
yeah.
think it's you. I don't think
So I have a different story because I moved here in 1990 from a small town. I grew up on a farm in Chatham, Ontario. So I moved here, right, and I'm, you know,
I do. Yeah.
I played in bands in high school. I actually started as a drummer at 8 years old. I started as a drummer first, taking lessons. Some of the first stuff I think that I was really inspired by was, you know, and you say if you can remember a moment, I can actually remember a particular moment where I heard for the first time rock and roll all night on the radio. And I was with my family, and we were coming from African Lion Safari.
Oh yeah.
And that came on the radio, and I fucking loved it. I was like, you know, and I remember that moment vividly. One of the few moments that, you know, drugs and alcohol have
And
killed
was
in
it-
my but I remember that, and man, I wanted to be a musician.
Right
And I
from
was
there.
probably, you know, eight years old.
Yeah.
I wanted a drum kit, and my parents actually were cool enough to support that.
Awesome.
Started taking drum lessons until my early teens, maybe 12, and then I switched to guitar after that. Just because I wanted to play on the beach with my friends. And it's
It's
hard to do that with drums.
It's funny you say that. Like a personal story. I wanted my son to play guitar, and the way I tried to sell it to him was that, you know, when you go out with your friends to a picnic or camping, the guy that pulls out the guitar and plays some tunes gets all the girls. Right? So that's what I said to him. Listen,
That's awesome.
I've been the other guy that
Yeah.
sees the guy playing the guitar get
Yeah,
the
yeah,
girls.
girls,
Don't
yeah.
be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
You
Be
know,
the guy who picks up
be
the
the guy who
acoustic.
gets the
That's
girls. So
awesome,
it's
yeah.
funny you say that because I think for me growing up, a lot of my friends started getting into music, and that was, I'm not saying that was the only driving force,
no,
but
of
that
course.
was a factor
Yeah.
to pick guitar, for example, over drums or bass or.
Well, I started to realize that I heard it all and I understood it all. Bass, everything. I eventually learned all of those instruments, everything that I could, to record music. So
'Cause it's the music you fall in love
because
with.
it's music that I love.
Yeah.
It's the whole aspect. It's rhythm. It's time. It's frequency. It's all of those things. It's the science of it. It fascinates me. I've tried to walk away from it, but I can't. You know, I'm miserable.
Well, I think we all
if I
did
do.
at one point.
And
I know I did for 2
for
years.
And
me,
I have to do it. I just
Yeah.
have to.
I keep going
You know,
back.
I started off learning guitar and switched to drums.
Switch
because
to drums,
I
yeah, the
kept
opposite.
going over to a friend of mine who had drums, and I started noodling around on him, and I was better than he was.
There you go. And that's
So
how
I
it
just
happens.
gravitated to that.
Yeah.
So
And going back to that point about the Toronto,
Oh,
the scene
yeah,
in
the
Toronto,
scene in
yeah, like you guys saw the heyday, and now we're seeing the no day.
The no day. That's a good way.
Like,
it's not.
how do you explain that? How do you explain?
Well, one thing is it's flooded with bands.
Well,
Everybody wants to be a musician,
well,
and it's easy to be.
Not
one
only
now.
that, music has changed.
It has
the
changed.
mainstream music has
It's
changed.
changed.
A lot of that has to do with, you know,
Technology.
I hate to say it because I have been
Yeah.
in the music industry a little bit more. Well, we've all been there,
No, you did more.
but I've seen a little bit more maybe because I work on both sides as well, and the problem is ownership of music. This is the big issue, right? ownership of music. Record companies don't want to give bands the ownership of their music. They want to keep all of the relevant copyright and because that's where the money is. So it's a constant struggle. So now as record companies crumble and join together to try to keep their monopoly, and now independent bands can now come out and actually become something without them. It's a fight. They own the radio slots. An independent band without a major record label will never get a #1 hit slot. They won't. They can't. The record companies own those slots, and that's the problem, I think, and that's killing the music industry because people are and technology as well. Technology is making everybody. You don't even need to play an instrument. You can record music.
You don't even
at
need
home.
talent.
You got it. You don't.
You don't need talent.
I just find
and
all the
not buy
music
it
very
like
much
that
the same.
sucks. You know.
And I don't know. It seems to me like maybe just music that they can control.
They need to be able to control it. The cookie cutter music.
It's all
It
formula.
has to be all in house for them. So that's why we just get flooded with what the mainstream wants us to hear. But radio is also dying because people are listening to satellite
Spotify,
radio and
There's a
Spotify.
lot of good, really
Right.
good musicians.
And
out
that's
there,
why.
I just think they have to play
That's
that
why
formula
that's
music.
happening.
You have
It is,
to
yeah,
make
no,
money.
that's true.
Because people don't want to be fed this shit. They want to hear what they want to hear.
Mhm.
They don't want to be bombarded with freaking
Commercials.
and just these type of cookie cutter stars that are coming out. Any one of these huge, pop stars of right now, the songs are being written by all the same songwriters. Aside from Pink,
around.
Yeah,
and aside from
So
Pink,
there are a few,
she's
there are a
fucking
few, yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, there are. a
Lady
few.
Gaga, I'm also a huge fan of. But
Bruno Mars.
it could be
Yeah.
any of these artists performing any of these
Any
songs.
of these songs,
It doesn't
because they
matter,
work for
right?
them, Yeah.
It's just a good hit song. There's Diana Warren. There's these amazing songwriters that write hit after hit after hit.
And just
I
get
kind
it.
of think
you
that
know.
the same type of thing applied to the late '80s bands.
Yeah.
Because everybody started to
It
look
did.
the same,
70s,
sound the
late
same, and all
70s,
the
80s.
the
80s, yeah,
videos were
absolutely.
getting more cheesier and cheesier, and that's why, in my opinion, when Nirvana came along,
Yeah.
and just basically rehashed punk,
They broke the mold,
and
man.
and
They
and
broke the
everyone
mold.
went, holy
But then
crap, this
created
is
a new mold.
different,
Yeah.
and I
Because
think
then
that
everything
had a
after
lot
that
to do
came
with
out.
what the collapse of the so-called hair metal.
It's
bands.
interesting you say that because to me Nirvana was a band that it affected me because it changed my outlook at music. Okay, before Nirvana, I was really into thrash metal, death metal. Nirvana kind of showed me that you could get your aggression out and you could get a message out in a different way.
Yeah.
Still, I hate calling it alternative or whatever you want to call it. For me, music is music,
It's
and I
rock
hate
and
putting
roll,
labels
It's all rock
on
and
stuff.
roll, yeah.
But I remember after Nirvana made me look into bands, made me get more into punk, which I wasn't really into punk until
Oh,
Nirvana
okay.
came along.
Okay.
And they kind of made me go back and listen to Sex
Some of
Pistols,
the
like you
Mud
guys
Honey,
did.
and
Yeah, like
yeah.
Clash.
Yeah.
And I didn't listen to them until Nirvana came around. So it's funny that you mentioned that because I think I don't think enough people give Nirvana credit for what Nirvana did for music at that time in the early
Absolutely. They
'90s.
paved
And
the
it
way
needed
for a lot of
it
the
because
new
it was
bands.
just so, it was becoming ridiculous.
It was.
Yeah.
You know?
Like
So-
after them, all these Seattle bands came out.
Yeah, Soundgarden.
Soundgarden, one of my
Alice
favorite
in Chains.
bands,
Alice
Alice
in
in
Chains,
Chains,
you know,
Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
great stuff.
And the irony of that is that really those bands are metal bands, really.
Sure they are.
They just called it something else, but
Well, alternative just means
Certainly Alice
not
in Chains.
mainstream.
Not
Yeah,
mainstream.
that's
Right,
right.
that's
Yeah.
it.
That's
Which
it.
then in
Which it
turn
became mainstream,
mainstream.
so-
Yeah,
It did
exactly.
become mainstream.
Yeah.
Eventually, it became mainstream.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I don't know. You guys play. You go to shows. Do you feel like? Do you feel like the youth of today is not musically driven like the youth of the past? For example, like the youth of today doesn't maybe care necessarily as much about social problems, politics, things, because everything is kind of given to them in the world that they live in, that they never really had to battle or fight for anything. So there's a disconnect with the music.
They're programmed.
They also live a cookie cutter life, and maybe that's why, especially in the city of Toronto, they're more interested in
what
going
they
clubbing.
give them.
It's
Absolutely.
instantaneous. Everything
Absolutely.
is instantaneous. You know, like I remember, and you know, like waiting for a certain magazine to come out because it was going to tell me about what my favorite band was into and doing and stuff. You know, and now of course everybody has their own website and you know you can go and there's not that there's anything wrong with that, but everything is instantaneous. And I think that because everything is instantaneous, like what we all probably did is like we had a band that we gravitated to and we really liked, and they're like they're not focused on one thing.
Well,
It's
not
like,
only that, okay, remember back thinking about in high school, you got an album that you wanted to hear. You got home, you had your buddies come over, you
True.
sat down, you put it on,
It was
you
an
sat down, and that's what you were doing,
That's
man.
right.
You were into, you were listening, you had to get up and flip the side. It was interactive. You think we're interactive now? No, nowhere near that.
Hey, wait a second. You want to hear a song? Where's my Bluetooth?
Yeah,
There
now
it
it's
is.
just
There's a
it's the
song, right?
soundtrack
So-
of our lives.
And it's
There's
going
no,
through this little tinny
you know.
speaker that you know, like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
nothing, there's no.
You know, it really isn't what it is. What it
And,
used to be.
you put a playlist on
Yeah.
and you just
And
go
you
about
go.
your
Go
business.
about your business.
And the music doesn't,
We're back in
even
the
though
day.
it doesn't be, you know, so many people I spoke to, oh man, that song
Oh,
changed
they're
my life.
They are.
Did you
Yeah.
pay for it? Well, no, I downloaded
Big
it for
part
free.
of their
So it
music.
changed your fucking life,
It is.
but you
Yeah.
stole it
But-
essentially, and you didn't even pay
I
for
know.
it. Really?
We had to
That's
work
how
really
you're
hard
treating
Yeah.
to get where
it.
we are.
It's
Yeah.
sad.
We bled.
That's
We-
what it's
we-
become,
we
though,
had
because
to
it's
learn
become
to
so
learn ourselves.
simple
Nowadays, if you want to
for
play guitar,
you to just
go online,
take
Yeah.
for an
what
hour,
you want.
learn how
The
to
young
play,
generation
get a course together,
And that's
you
have
going-
never
that's
grown
going
up
music.
without
Artists-
technology,
Artists don't
We're
make
fine.
money.
without bank
You know,
cards,
constantly,
without
right?
cell phones, without they never shit. Remember having to go to the bank? If you didn't make the bank, you didn't have any money.
Or you didn't have any
You
money,
know,
yeah, exactly.
Or if someone phoned you
But then
and
they
you
came
weren't
out-
home,
you weren't
you
home.
weren't
That's
home,
it.
and you
Then
just
they
had to
came out
phone
with
them back.
ATMs.
When you
I
got
think the
home.
whole
Right.
Seattle, the whole
Plays all
Seattle
the
grunge thing
Well,
was
see,
the
great
year that
See that
He plays
punk rock
everything.
hit
there's
America
not as many as there
on a
used to
big
be.
scale.
That's
you
what
know?
it is.
It was like I remember in high school going to see the rock acts of the day. You know, whoever was touring, you know, go see them at the hockey arena.
Kiss.
But then I remember skipping school and coming to Toronto to see the Clash the first time they played here in Toronto with the Undertones and the B-Girls at the O'Keefe Center, and seeing the first front 6 rows of the O'Keefe Center being ripped out and thrown on stage during Riot, when Clash played Riot, and I was like on Microdot and I'm watching this, and you just wouldn't see that today. You know, that
Yeah.
you
No,
wouldn't
I
have
mean
that
we were
reaction
just at a
today.
show where we were almost got kicked out because we were standing.
Yeah.
Because people wanted to sit and watch a metal show.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, to me, that this kind of like sense of entitlement is it's.
That's funny.
That happened to
Yeah.
me.
That happened to me. My wife and I went to go see the Stones, and we sat down, and everyone looked at us and went, "All right, you guys don't plan to get up and start cheering and that. You guys are just going to sit down and relax with us." And we kind of went, "Oh, not really." Then we went to go see Adamant last year, and we sat down beside these two queens, and they both said to us, "You guys are not, you know, you guys are just going to take it easy and sit down and like just kind of enjoy the show." We're like, "No, we're going to fucking rock this night out, man. It's rock and roll, live music, man, bands, you know." So I don't know what it is with today. Nobody wants
I
to
don't
get up
either.
and do it anymore, you know. And
I mean, personally, me and him, we go to a lot of shows in Toronto, and that's why I kind of want to get the vibe from you guys. And almost what it feels to me is that a lot of it has to do with the society where we live in today, where everything has to be instant and immediate. But I also think the clubs themselves play a part as well.
They do.
You know, because he's prevented from going to a lot of shows because of not
Because of
being
his age,
because of
right,
his
yeah,
age. And I grew up in an environment where there was no age limit. Anybody could
Yeah.
go, especially if you're going with an adult. I mean, if
I
you're
remember
with-
the early thrash and speed metal. There was a lot more all
Everything
ages
was all
shows.
age shows,
Yeah, everything was all ages.
yeah.
And I think you're kind of killing the
Yeah.
next generation, because if you have a son and you want to take him to a show, to kind of introduce him to Testament or Creator or whoever, and you can't take him, how is he going to get into that band if he's not going to get that live experience of experiencing the band?
Well, you have to wait until they play the stadiums where you have to pay $30 for a 32-ounce of beer and $12 for a slice of pizza. And, you know, that's what they want to corral you into. It's not.
And then you sit there and watch it like you're watching.
Being a guitar player that plays heavy music, I mean, you know, I'm a little older, but you know, the '80s was a blast because like every corner there was a bar that had a stage with a PA system and lights. And you could be in an original band and be playing all the time in Toronto, or you could be in a cover band and go on the road and play. You just don't have that nowadays.
They barely have PAs. How many times we go to a club and it's like there's no PA?
And we got a better PA in our
then half the
rehearsal spot. We could have brought our own.
That I don't get either, you know.
And do you guys feel like it's becoming harder and harder for bands to start and stick around for as long as you guys have been around? Like, do you find like you guys obviously do it because you love playing, right? And you have fun together. But considering all the factors, you know, no money in the music business, hard to find gigs, hard to find shows.
That's why you find musicians.
We're stubborn. We're just stubborn.
But you also find musicians nowadays. They have 5 bands, 6 bands. They're in 5, 6 bands because they want to play.
It's a labor of love. We do it because we love it, and it's just, you know, like some guys play hockey. We do this. Well, we do hockey too, but
it's a sign of the times, though. I mean, now young people can't. How the hell are they supposed to make a living off of the minimum wage? They don't get shit anymore. They don't get anything. It's this kind of bullshit that's happening is why we're here, and is why we can exist, and why we can keep doing what we're doing, because we are absolutely against that, and we're just trying to get people to see, hey, you're being screwed over.
Just show them what they can do.
You know,
you guys just made me think of something that I didn't have planned to ask, but you guys just made me think about it. You guys have seen different evolutions in heavy metal rock music. You guys saw, you know, hair metal. You guys saw the stuff that came before hair metal. You saw Nirvana, what happened in the early '90s. You saw the new metal that started happening towards the late '90s. So you guys have seen all of these different things. With the generation that's around now in the music, do you guys expect to see something fresh and new in the next 5 years? Something that will give it a jolt the same way, for example, Nirvana gave a jolt in the early '90s?
well, I think everyone's been waiting for that, right? I think the whole world has been waiting for that moment. It doesn't seem to be happening because the industry doesn't seem to be on that program. But yeah, I mean, I hope something breaks. I mean, it's terrible.
It's usually starts new music with shock, kind of. You know, you got to do something that really catches everybody's attention. Like,
entertain.
Like the Sex Pistols did, like the hip hop bands.
But Nirvana wasn't shock. They were just they were broken.
No, maybe they weren't, but I'm just saying something. Well, they were kind of.
But the music had it. Yeah,
you
had this raw thing.
The lyrics
too.
of Nirvana were very raw, very emotional. From within.
Is there something out there that's gonna change? Like it's gonna make a movement the way Nirvana did?
But the thing is so how can it happen when the powers that be, the actual industry itself, are totally in control and blocking that from happening?
Absolutely.
That's
On this side of the pond,
problem.
it's like that, I believe.
I'm sure that there's some basement frickin' band out there in some little town that's just killing it.
Yeah.
But will they see the light of day?
Probably not.
Maybe not. Will they last? To
get to that power,
cut through all the red tape to
Probably
actually
not,
be seen or heard. That's the tough one, you know.
That's true.
In a way, too, we were talking about this the other day, but like the old saying, everything old is new again. Stuff tends to come around in circles. For example, vinyl. And I
Yeah.
think one of the reasons for the resurgence of vinyl is because to the kids it's new. They unless their parents had it,
Yeah.
it is new to them.
It's kind of retro. It's kind of cool.
You know, and I think there will always be a little niche for that. But what's cool about that is like with when you talk about like kids coming up who've never heard, for example, punk rock, or they've never heard thrash, and you know, and they're fed some of this.
mainstream
Homogenized.
bullshit.
It's just
Cookie
it's
cutter.
there's nothing like what Ron was saying about like Guitar Center and places like that. Like there's nothing. The kids aren't inspired to go out and learn how to play an instrument. And the reason for that, I think, is because it takes time. It takes time and effort to put in to learn how to play. And it's not an instant gratification.
Not
This,
instantaneous.
you know, the so-called millennials, a lot of them, it's instant gratification. Sorry.
In a
But
way,
that's the
though, I
truth.
think there's a lot
And-
going on in new
and-
music still. And like there's the death metal bands, when we go to see them, there's tons of kids there.
Nothing's cut and dry. Nothing's black and
And
white.
it's
There are
because the
young
world
people
is
that
coming
are
together.
really
Absolutely.
changing.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
God,
Absolutely.
that's what I have my faith
Absolutely.
in. You know.
I mean, on the other aspect, technology also plays a role now these days for a band to get their stuff out. I mean, I remember in my days,
Yes,
you'd
yes.
have to make a copy of a tape and pass it to your friend,
Oh,
and
yeah,
you would make a
yeah.
copy of a tape, pass it to
Yeah,
your
yeah,
friend.
yeah.
These days, you make a song.
Yeah.
Put it
We're a perfect
online.
example today. You guys played a song that we were broadcasting live
Live,
that a guy
absolutely.
in
You couldn't
Alaska
do that.
could have watched.
Yeah.
You know,
but
so
you can have that in our day.
so
yeah.
I think the negatives are there, but I think maybe the positives is that if you're a really good band and you have a unique sound, maybe it's easier for you to get your sound out there, at least to the
Oh,
masses.
absolutely,
Definitely.
absolutely, yeah,
Definitely.
for sure.
Whether
And
it's
that's
stick
the
or not,
one positive side of like the
today's
technology
out.
thing that I've seen.
Absolutely.
It
Is
is.
that, you know, coming from maybe geographically being in Toronto and being in a punk band and playing music that, you know, might not have caught on for 20 years, you know, and not getting a break from the, you know, so-called record industry, that, you know, once it came about and it was just like, yeah, put it out there, man. I've been getting stiff for my entire life as far as getting paid for this. So, you know, the more people that can hear it, great.
But
You
the
know,
cool
but
thing
it
is,
hopefully there will come a time
people-
that that'll change.
Every industry.
people can tell when you're genuine. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So when you've got an audience and you've got that moment and you are a genuine, you know, band and actually doing and playing everything that you believe in, it's translated.
It is.
And
absolutely.
when you're having a good time doing it, people, you know, you could be the shittiest band, really. I mean, I'm not saying that, but if someone who was at your show, that was their best night ever, then you're the best band ever,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all about that interaction with the people, with your fans. If you can, you know, get that, the translation of you know, really what you're trying to put out, and you know, they get it. Like we have a new fan who's just an obsessive fan lately, and he was at a show recently. He didn't leave the front of the stage.
He just,
You know,
he's waving at me every half hour on Facebook.
he bought merch. He
Shirt,
you know,
hat, CDs. He changed his cover,
awesome.
his Facebook cover. He
We
has
just
a
need a
picture
couple
of us.
thousand more people like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Our album is his
bands
other
could only
photo,
dream
his
of
profile
having
picture.
fans like that.
Yeah,
Those are the people.
those
you
are
know,
the
you may want to think, oh, crazy, but
But he's a fan.
but you
That's
know what?
great.
These are the people that actually
that
keep
you know,
you
we
alive,
keep
and
you
they
alive and-
get.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think-
Exactly.
They get it.
I
They
think
get it.
another thing
They get
too, as time goes on, I like to think that we're a really tight band. We're pretty tight, and I hear it all the time. And we're all very critical of ourselves, and it's nice to hear. Like, you know, some guy or a girl that doesn't know you and comes up to you and says, "Wow, you guys were great. You guys,
And they
that's
genuinely
sincere.
mean it.
They mean
Yeah,
that because
and
they could just as soon tell you suck.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, like you hear it from your friends, but your friends are your friends, and you know they're gonna maybe.
They're always going to
You
tell
know,
they're always
you.
gonna
It's
tell
you know what
actually
I
not
mean?
always.
But-
Some of your
but
friends
the
are
one that you
always
don't know,
assholes.
it's really nice.
It is
to
nice
hear.
when somebody
It's,
you don't know
it's
who's
sincere.
genuinely sincerely says
And
it.
and,
Yeah.
and I think that just you know
No,
drives
that's-
us along too.
Absolutely. it
And
does. Absolutely.
at this point in our careers, our lives,
Age.
you know, and yeah, it's still fun.
It's great.
And you know, speaking for myself, I'm gonna keep going till I can't go no more.
Basically. Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, deep down inside, like I'm still a rock fan. Like you know,
Yeah,
when the lights go down and I'm going to see a band that I like, you know, and the lights go down, the intro tape starts.
Still get those
Inside,
chills,
I
man.
get like
Yeah.
a rush,
little
like I'm
bit, yeah.
15 years old again.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
that'll never go away.
No,
I
never
totally
go.
know. I totally know that
Yeah,
feeling.
absolutely.
and you know,
Isn't it
there's a lot of
great?
people out there
I
that
think that's
share
the
that.
best part about
It
playing
is
a
the
live
best.
show.
That is the best
And
part.
I think
And for as bad as it, for as bad as it is, I want to a thing I just kind of remembered. When Janet Jackson was coming through town and she had to cancel a bunch of shows, this was a number of years ago. There was like a 2-page layout, like in the Toronto Star and the local newspapers. You know, oh, her latest album and this, that, and the other thing. Well, that weekend before her canceled show on the Monday, where there was about like 5,000 tickets sold, you know, at the ACC, which was like practically empty. You know, there was 40,000 kids standing in the mud watching Slipknot up at Downsview, and there was no advertising for that. There was no 2-page ad. There was nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
And that's what like metal fans are, you know.
Yeah.
And it's been like that for forever.
Yeah.
It's always you know, I'm sure you're aware. You know, like for whatever reason, especially again on this side of the Atlantic, it gets dissed all the time.
Yeah, well, you said it yourself. You didn't even know King Diamond was playing.
no, that's what I'm
exactly.
saying. It's
That's
but now on the other side, technology with apps like Bands in Town, where you can follow your
Yeah.
favorite
Yeah,
bands
yeah.
and gives you alerts of when they're playing.
You have to.
There are positives, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
But
yes,
going
yes.
back to what you said about the kids' Slipknot show in Downsview, well, how do you guys feel about a city the size of Toronto does not have a metal festival? Like
I
the only
know.
one we have in this
I feel
area
terrible.
is in Montreal.
It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah,
It's
it's
horrible.
terrible.
It is
But
horrible.
you
Why?
go to
Why?
Montreal as a metal band,
But
and
the metal
you,
scene in Montreal is much stronger than the
totally
metal
you
scene
see
in
the
yeah.
Toronto.
difference, man. It's like
Yeah.
night and day.
Oh, yeah, even back
Mosh
in the
pits
80s.
and people, you know,
Yeah.
Why?
because
I know.
they actually support.
Yeah.
They believe it. The metropolis of what the city that we have. So the larger the population you're going to have, you know, the obviously.
Do you think maybe that the
There's no support system in Toronto.
There's not one on the
No,
island.
do you think that perhaps the issue with Montreal versus Toronto in terms of the metal scene is also a cultural thing?
Definitely.
Because Montreal has more of a European vibe
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
it, and Toronto
Absolutely.
has more of a North
Yeah.
American vibe to it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it has a lot to do with
100%,
it.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Montreal in Canada is probably one of the places where metal never really died.
It never
It's
died.
more
And it
open
never
minded.
will.
It's been strong.
And it never will
for a long,
because
long time.
much like Montreal, who, you know, Parisian, you know, Paris, you know, they may not see eye to eye, you know, being Parisian, French doesn't really recognize Quebecois as French,
French,
but
yeah.
very similar.
Mhm.
So when people are unhappy in France, they get together and they revolt. They're always, you know, and they love their metal. They love it. The heavier, the better. Like our good friend Eric
Yeah.
Force from E-Force. You know, he
Yeah,
moved
yeah,
from here
yeah.
to France. He's doing amazing out
It
there.
is amazing.
Metal is alive and strong.
Yeah.
You know, and it's awesome. I fucking love it.
And Montreal is that same.
And I think, you know, I'm French Canadian, so I have that. I share that. I will till the end. I don't give a shit. I will fight. you
I
know.
think they have a good metal scene.
And Toronto doesn't have that.
And that's the
Oh,
attitude.
Germany, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Germany, all the
That's
Eastern
where I like.
European
That's
countries.
my
People like to
dream
say
play
Toronto's
there
a hockey town. They've never been on a Saturday night in Montreal when the Habs are playing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
That's
it.
a hockey town.
I don't know about this year, but
Yeah,
maybe.
no kidding. But that's the difference, cause, and in Toronto, I don't wanna use there's a whole cultural thing happening here, but like in Montreal, it's very European, very, like you were saying, the whole pure, the French thing. Out here in Toronto, we don't have that, cause it's so diverse.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's
And there's too much of everybody.
There
that-
is no
There's no
unified.
There's no
there's
culture.
there's
no culture
Unified.
whatsoever,
None.
no unification.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
No,
there
so
is
they're just
certain
fed
moments.
that
There is,
pop,
absolutely,
mainstream
but,
pop.
and that's why I
Thinking
didn't wanna
about
say it
if
like
you
that,
just
you know what I
did
mean?
a survey in Montreal
You know,
and a survey in Toronto.
I have to say,
People-
there are moments, there's
I think
amazing
you
moments
find that it's way
in
higher
life
Toronto, just the
that you can,
mainstream
you know,
on
recall. But
on the radio pop.
I was on the bus one time, this is years back, and this is one of those moments that I just find, you know, it's amazing. It has nothing to do with music, has nothing to do with anything. But it's just a human connection. I was on the bus, TTC, coming down Jones. There was broken beer bottle on the crosswalk, and a Muslim man, fully, you know, dressed, it was a nice summer day. He was cleaning the glass off of the street and putting it in the garbage so that nobody hurt
Yeah,
themselves.
sure, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I was going by on the bus, saw him doing it. He happened to look up, see the bus. We caught eye contact while I was on the bus. And I was just looking at him smiling, like in my total approval. Like, yes.
That's nice, yeah.
And he
Very
got
good.
it, and he
Yeah.
was like, yeah, that's
That's
right.
right.
You know what I mean? And that is an amazing moment.
Yeah.
That is a moment that, you know, you can disregard that as anything, but that was a connection that I shared with someone, and we totally had the same wave. We were on the same wavelength, and we knew it.
Mhm.
You know, that's the wonderful thing. And that,
Yeah,
I
no,
think
there's great things about the city
we're
of Toronto, for
lacking.
sure.
We're lacking that
And the music.
because everybody is so self-entitled and so self-centered and me. I do make money. You know what I mean?
Selfie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've lost that in Toronto.
Did you know that of all the westernized nations, that the Canadians take the least amount of holidays in than any other
Oh, yeah,
country,
I do
including
that, yeah.
Japanese people? And they would say that in Japan that they're workaholics,
Yeah.
you know, but not, you can't, like, we take less holidays than they do, you know? Like, I'm sure that's
so nice.
in Europe, they you know, like 2 weeks holidays after, you know, I mean, like, what are you talking about, right? Most of the countries have a lot more holidays.
The month, yeah.
Siesta time.
Going back to the band, so what
Yeah.
were the plans for 2018? What do you guys have in the pipeline?
Some new
Fight.
recordings.
Currently,
No,
we're
We are
recording.
we are currently recording right
We've
now.
got a few dates booked
So,
in the future, but
yeah.
not many at the moment.
Yeah, we got a few
We're
days. We're playing
June
June
Playing
2nd.
quite a bit
2nd
last
at the
winter.
Bovine,
Yeah, June 2nd at the Bovine
and
and
June 15th
15th in Oshawa
Oshawa.
at the Atria.
opening, for a
Opening
band
up
from
I can't pronounce their name, but they're from
They're
Okay.
from
Mad-
LA,
Manswell,
which is
Manson.
really cool. You know,
Manson,
you know,
Manson,
they're
Manson.
they're struggling. They're a young band, but they're. I'm sure you might be aware of them. But I heard their stuff, and
Who are we talking about here?
Man,
Man's
the
one.
band from
Man's
Hollywood.
one.
Yeah.
yeah, what's it called?
Manson.
It's an odd
Manson?
name, and I
Manson.
apologize.
Sorry,
but
we
it-
apologize. Yes,
But
I think it's Mansion
but they're-
or something like that.
what I heard was really good, like really good, and you know, they're doing a bare bones tour. I'm sure they're not making a lot of money. They're probably living out
But
of
yeah,
the buses.
as far as us, we're just doing
And
some new recordings. Most
Recording
likely gonna be
and
doing some
new
videos
video
following
in the
up.
works,
Yeah.
and that'll
Yeah,
be
new
coming
video
out.
as well.
We're halfway through done our recording, right?
Yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
5 in the can or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That's, well, with the two from the other day.
With a cover as well. We're doing a
Yeah.
cover of Where Evil Grows from the Poppy
Poppy
Family,
Family, yeah.
1971,
70 songs, so yeah.
which is Terry and Susan Jacks. Terry Jacks wrote Seasons in the Sun. Susan
But
Jones.
which I wasn't crazy about recording or playing initially, but now it's like my favorite song.
Yeah.
Why? Just because it was a cover, or because you
It's a,
didn't like it?
it's a cover. It's just because I don't know. Maybe it was I was too concentrating on learning the song, but I was listening to what everybody
He
was
loves it
playing
now,
after
yeah.
we
Well,
recorded it. It was like wow.
Up to that
Yeah.
point, it's definitely a departure for us because a lot of our
It's
stuff is,
different, yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And
And it's really groovy 70s.
Yeah. But it is, we heavied it up, obviously,
Yeah.
you know, and it's fun to play actually, and it goes over quite well.
It does.
It does.
It's-
Especially to the people who know and remember.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Really dark lyrics.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
When you get into it.
Yeah.
They were famous for writing these happy type of groovy
Yeah.
songs, but the lyrics are
Lyrics
just
are very
so
dark, yeah.
dark.
The
Much
one-
like Seasons in the Sun, right?
Yeah.
The one thing that's cool about this band is that we have so many ideas. Like, you know, Thomas brought forth so many songs, and you know, and some of them, not on purpose, they go to the wayside and then they come out later on. But like
'Cause
we
they're never
have,
forgotten.
we have,
Yeah.
and you know, like I've been in bands where it's like, oh, geez, I don't know what to do, but we have like so many
Oh,
things going
Endless
on
library.
in terms
so
of
many
writing.
songs.
And it's I mean it's great. It's
Yeah, I
it's
love
great,
it, yeah.
and you know, like I'm sure we will you know, get it all down.
And I do enjoy coming to the rehearsal and Tom's got a new riff. I do enjoy when we take the time and actually we sit there and we think about it. He comes up with an idea. He'll come up with an idea. He'll come up, and I like that camaraderie of us. How
It's
we work
fun.
together. It's not like this is written in stone. It's like this. Do it like this. You know.
No
Yeah.
egos, just
Yeah,
friends.
It's
No,
just
yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we come here for hours.
And trying to
we'll-
make the songs the
best
that they
we
can be.
Exactly.
You know,
that
no
they can be.
ego,
no
no
nothing.
bullshit.
Yeah,
Oh, well, this
exactly.
part I think might be better there.
Exactly.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
try that.
We
We'll
work
try it.
that
And
way
if it doesn't
too, and
work,
the way
it doesn't
the,
work. And if it does, it does.
the way
It's a
our
democracy.
music is licensed, it's just we each have 20% of the songs. There's no,
Yeah, everything's
you know, a
equal, no
lot of
matter
bands
who
have
wrote
the,
what.
No matter
this
who wrote
guy
the
and this
most
guy
or what
wrote
have
all
you,
the
yeah,
songs,
yeah.
and the other players just get a lot less. It's just a
We just do it
five-way
evenly because
split.
you know we all
we're a
bleed.
group.
You know, we're all bleeding for this. You know, it's not just one person doing it all, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're all
Yeah.
doing it, and we all love it, and we all fuck. I think we care. I care for you guys. I
This
know
is
they
it
care
for
No
for
fun
me
standing in the
as
mirror
as
playing
far
the
as it
songs to
goes.
yourself. That's just for looking good. That's for when I make my rock movies, man.
Well, on that note, I think we're done for today. So
Wonderful.
I want to thank you guys for taking
Oh,
the time
thanks.
to
Thanks
host
for-
us.
thanks for
It
being
was
here.
a
Thanks
pleasure.
for bringing
I
us
loved
here.
it. I
Thank
loved
you
it.
very much.
I loved it. It was a pleasure. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
The
very
man
much.
behind the camera.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks for having us. It
No,
was a
thanks,
pleasure. I really
thanks,
enjoyed it.
thanks.
it.
Yeah,
No,
thanks for
And
giving
all the
us
best
this.
for the rest of the year and
Wonderful.
forever. Let's
That's
make
right.
music
Absolutely.
forever.
So you
Yeah.
gonna edit
That's our
that, or
plan.
what do you-
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there'll be